What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm actually, as it turns out, I'm going to be making two videos today. I do have my, I did my, it ended up being like a 45 minute video of a, breakdown of all of the drafts over the past 6 years, but I decided I'm going to do an extension of that, and every week, as I have mentioned, from now on, over the next 6 weeks, I'm gonna take one draft class and do an even deeper dive, and I'm gonna bring up on the screen for you guys their stats and so on and so forth, and we're gonna take a deeper dive together. One draft class at a time. I'll be doing 2016 today. However, ad is gonna be coming after this video because this video, unfortunately, is more COVID news related. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First and foremost, as you can see, the Miami Dolphins have placed wide receiver Jaylen Waddle on the reserve COVID-19 list. So now down goes Waddle. We'll talk about this in just a minute. Also, though, as per Cameron Wolf, Dolphins are placing rookie running back Jared Dokes on the COVID reserve list. So now Miami has 4 running backs down, along with Jaylen Waddle and Jevon Holland. And let's just note, though, that that COVID, I'm actually going to move this over here, that COVID has been hitting the NFL super hard over the past few days, and it is just devastating the NFL right now. And it's bad. It's really bad. But, looking at the Dolphins really quick, I am going to talk about these updated protocols and so on and so forth, and my views on this real quick. But when it comes to the Dolphins, that's obviously not good. And this is the worst time for the Dolphins to have an outbreak with their, hopes to maybe make a push for the playoffs, et cetera, with, just coming off the bye week. I mean, look, at this point, I'm actually going to say that they've lost the bye week, because not only do they still have, a fair amount of guys who are battling injuries and so on and so forth, but now they're starting to drop like flies when it comes to COVID, and unfortunately, it's a lot of our top guys. I mean, our entire running back room is decimated, but now we lose our top offensive playmaker in Jaylen Waddle, along with one of our top defensive playmakers in Jevon Holland. Now, there is still some chance that some of these guys could come back. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Haven't heard anything about any of them coming back yet, but it's a terrible situation to be in. We definitely cannot afford it, especially since, the Jets are supposed to be easy, but if we keep losing guys, and unfortunately my worry is that, it's only Thursday. We still have a few days until the game is played, and there's a good chance, especially with how fast it's spreading right now through the NFL in particular, but also the country, which, we'll kind of get to in just a minute, but, because it's just, right now, the surges in this country are just outrageous. But anyway, so, things could change, man. I mean, if none of these guys play, then we're definitely not going to have a run game. We're not going to have our top receivers, so we're going to have, no wide receivers and one of our top defensive players. So things like that can change the outlook of a game, which is super unfortunate. All right, so now there are a couple more things I do want to talk about. So NFL's updated COVID policy. Real quick before I do that, I do want to mention to you guys how I feel about all of this stuff. First and foremost, I have never thought that we have handled this pandemic properly in the slightest. In particular, America. Now, there have been some countries who have done some things correctly and have certainly handled it a lot better than us. Collectively, as a world, we are failing miserably to handle a pandemic, and I think it is a giant mistake that people are just trying to live with it, because this is not even close to like the flu. The flu doesn't give you diabetes. It doesn't do the kind of tremendous damage to your heart, your lungs, your brain, and other internal organs that this thing does. You don't get long flu. There's no such thing as long flu. Yes, the flu can kill people, but it's generally either the super young, the super old, or people who are vulnerable because they have, compromised immune systems or other health issues, generally speaking, right? Like, Me, for example, as a relatively young and healthy individual, I haven't gotten a flu vaccine since I've been out of the Navy because I don't like putting things in my body, especially chemicals, that aren't supposed to be there if I don't need to. And when it comes to the flu in particular, it's, it hasn't been necessary for me. I either don't get sick, or if I do, it's very mild. So, and I've always been that way when it's come to the flu, but this is way, way different. So me personally, I've never been in the favor. If you guys watched my videos last year and stuff, and it really even still holds true this year, I just haven't talked about it so really at all this year because there's nothing I can do about it. And also to be fair, it hasn't really cropped up yet in the NFL scene. But there's nothing I can do about it. The NFL is greedy and all they care about is ratings and filling seats and all this other stuff. So they're just going to push regardless, right? Like, it's funny too, because right now the NFL, I told you, is having a massive outbreak. The Washington football team now has, I think, over 20 players. Same thing goes for the Browns. Like, there are a number of teams that are just getting decimated. Panthers just put a bunch of guys up there. So like, and the week... There's still motherfucking a few more days to go until the majority of the games have to be played this week. You see what I'm saying? And so if the NFL had to reschedule games, we just got done with all the bye weeks. So they can't reschedule any of them to bye weeks. They'd be very limited in their ability to reschedule games. But my guess is they're probably not gonna. They're not gonna even really try to do that. They're just gonna do superficial shit like this, which again we'll get to in just a minute. But anyway, I've never been a fan of it. And as I've said, when it comes to the big picture, I think human beings are exceptionally stupid to try and just live with this thing. Now, we live in a world in which capitalism it reigns. Money reigns. And the flow of money is the most important thing that exists in human life and human civilization. And so that's, that takes precedent. That takes priority. And the capitalist machine, people going to work and going to movie theaters and to football games and all this other, out to eat and so on and so forth, that's way more important than keeping people safe. Because what should happen is the government should pay everybody more than adequately to stay home, reduce the amount of people out in public to essential personnel only, which this country has never done. There have been lockdowns in separate states, but the country as a whole never did that. Not once, ever. And there's no way we're ever going to get rid of or defeat this virus as long as we continue to just to gather en masse, to operate as if it's no big deal, to pretend it's just going to eventually go away, and to just continue to allow it to circulate amongst the public, get stronger, expedite the mutation process. And that doesn't even take into account that climate change continues to exacerbate, and the warming of the planet creates an environment in which viruses are able to thrive. So you add in all the... Look, it's a disaster. It's always been a disaster. I think it's a failure. I've never thought, for example, the vaccines were going to work. Certainly not by themselves, and certainly not... In fact, I am thoroughly convinced that it actually is a lot worse for a couple reasons. One, because... it creates a false confidence that everything's just going to be all right, even though it's not. And therefore, it allows the masses to be convinced that it's okay to congregate again and that we don't need to fucking shelter or quarantine. And it's okay to just spread this thing around like nobody's business. And because we allow that to happen, it then gets to interact with all of these vaccines. It gets to mutate a lot faster. And then, variants, Delta already was starting to negate the... Look, I believe the vaccines were rushed. I think they were improperly tested. And I don't believe that they were as strong and effective or as safe as claimed by these pharmaceutical companies that only care about getting people back into the fucking workplace and the capitalist machine churning. Just like the fucking, ironically enough, there's a bunch of Congress people who own stock in these companies too, etc., etc., so shocker there. But anyway, like, I digress a little bit. The vaccine, what was I saying? So, I never believed in them. However, in this vaccine, however, I'm not anti-vaccine. I've taken tons of vaccines in my life. I had to be in the Navy. It's just I don't believe in these ones because I do believe that they were rushed, they were improperly tested, and they were only expedited through the process and so on and so forth, so they could get to the point in which they were able to propagandize the masses and convince them that this was going to be the savior and we could get back to normal life. Because look, the reason why people are accepting the fact that, we can get back to normal life, it ranges in reason. Ultimately, it's all stupid, but there's the people who are capitalists and just greedy. That's mostly the people at the top, the politicians, the CEOs, the richest of the rich. They just want the money machine to keep flowing. And so they don't give a fuck about human life. It's all about profits for them. So, and they control everything. So unfortunately, what they want, they get. But then when it comes to the rest of us, some people are just sheer stupid, but then there's a number of people who are desperate, and because not working, they don't have money, they can't pay their bills, right? So they have to go out there and risk their lives, even though the vaccines are not going to protect us, right? Certainly not by themselves. And then you have people that just want to live their lives and go hang out with friends and go to movies and blah 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 blah. All of it ultimately is going to continue to contribute to we're living in a mass extinction. We are effectually allowing a mass extinction to happen of our race. Now, it hasn't gotten to the point yet where it's, making the population decrease. But if we keep going down this road, man, the only eventual outcome is that, because we're not going to stop it. Certainly not going to stop it anytime before this particular virus either gets so bad that it just doesn't give a fuck about what kind of viruses or medications we have, and it just runs rampant and starts killing millions of people every day, or we're going to end up experiencing a number of simultaneous pandemics because of all of the different viruses that are being released from the polar ice caps as they continue to melt, that we have literally no idea about and have never seen before ever in our life, and will just eventually one day, hit the masses and then start running. So look, bro, it's a disaster. It's never been good. Those are my feelings on it. I've never been a fan of how we handled it. They literally should pay people to just stay home, essential personnel only. And then I actually think it would be an opportune time to then implement a very, wide, expansive policy to, make our energy grid self-sustainable and renewable, so they don't have to be operated by humans. So you can actually automate the workforce and phase out the need for human labor, so you can then eventually also phase out things like money and financial systems and capitalism, so that way we can actually allow people to just always live their best life and fucking be free and do what they want, etc., etc. Anyway, I digress again because this is not that conversation, but I did want to at least let you guys know what my feelings are on COVID and all of that stuff, since it has now become a major, major issue. So before I do get out of here and wrap this up, let's go over the NFL's COVID policy updates. Masks regardless. Now again, just one more time, even though I've just, like I said, I haven't mentioned it because there's nothing I can do, but I'm really not in favor of this. I'm definitely not in favor of them packing stadiums. I think it's a fucking joke, and I think it just goes to show you how much they only care about, profits over the health of human beings. And one more thing too about the vaccines. No matter what you think, even if you think that they are as safe and effective as these corporations that have agendas are saying to you, even if you believe them, and even if it's true, none of the vaccines were ever going to stop the spread of the virus. Not even close. And that's one of the big problems with it. That is one of the primary problems, is that we have, as a species, just decided we're going to live with it and allow it to continue to spread rampantly, so we'll never be able to keep up with it. And again, it's not the flu. Way different fucking ballparks when it comes to viruses, bro. Anyway, so let's get back to this. Masks regardless of vaccination status. I mean, that should have always been the case. Remote or outdoor meetings. No in-person meals. Okay, those things are good, and certainly they'll help because you're limiting the amount of time that people are together. However, and we'll get to well, I'll just mention it now. I won't even bother going to the tweet. There's a tweet that said, Dolphins are voluntarily going to enhance protocols, and they're doing their meetings on Zoom, but they're going to have in-person practices. Bro, I'm sorry, but that is just half-assed as a motherfucker. As long as you continue to think that it's okay to bring people together in groups, period, you're never going to stop it. I'm just saying. But anyway, no outside visitors on team travel. I mean, all things that should have been in place from fucking Jump Street. Strongly encourage boosters. Of course they do, because the majority of people think that's the answer and that's the only thing we need to do. We just need to vaccinate people and we're going to be good. Okay. And adjusted return requirements for returning after COVID-19. So that's actually the one thing I'm curious about, though, mostly, because I haven't seen anything. That's really it, though, that I've got on this. I'm going to go ahead and, cut it here because I've done my soapbox. I've updated you guys on what's happened. But I just want to say real quick, that is the one thing, because I'll try and find it and include it in a video at some point. But I want to know what the return policy is now, because if it's changed and, maybe that means, it has changed. So maybe that affects these guys that are, have already gone on to the COVID list and could potentially go on over the next few days. And maybe we are going to be super shorthanded for the Jets game. I don't know. So obviously, something that we will continue to monitor over the week, and I will give my updates as they come, so check out for that. I am going to jump into my video for the 2016 draft class right after this, so make sure you check that out as well. Also, before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, the new fan-driven sports app for all your sports: basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like, they got it. And they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself. Look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I am out of here. I appreciate y'all. I hope you guys appreciate me and my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos to your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.